Gray had never believed in the idea of a light at the end of the tunnel. He had heard the stories from people who claimed to have brushed against death, waking in terror and insisting they had seen it. To him, it was nothing more than fantasy. Yet he now found himself drifting through a tunnel, confused and unable to remember how he had died. His last clear memory was being alone in his room, looking out over the city from above, before a strange heaviness overtook him as he lay on his bed. Poison, assassination, or betrayal were all plausible explanations. Many had wanted him dead. He had been a king, after all. But whatever the truth was, it no longer mattered. He had no control left, only the choice to accept what awaited him. Right now, as he moves forward, he wonders what awaits him at the tunnel's end and hopes it is not some absurd vision of babies singing. Before the thought can settle, he hears a joyous cry, announcing his arrival into the world. Understanding strikes instantly. He is a baby. He has been reborn. The light at the end of the tunnel is not death, but birth itself. A woman gazes down at him with overwhelming love. Her smile is gentle, and she is looking at him with admiration and care. A man stands beside her, speaking with pride as he notes that the child resembles his wife. His features are sharp, his presence commanding, yet there is unmistakable softness in the way he looks at his newborn son. He laughs deeply, leans in, and introduces himself as the child's father, eagerly urging the baby to speak. His wife gently reminds him that the child has just been born, and the man, Reynold, laughs at his own excitement. Gray's now named Arthur. He takes in his surroundings, trying to make sense of them. Everything appears normal, yet a deep sense of unfamiliarity lingers. This is not the world he once knew. His new parents, Alice and Reynold Lewin, seem genuinely good. Alice, in particular, radiates warmth and kindness so naturally that Arthur struggles to believe she is real. Her care extends beyond their home, as she often carries him along on trips to a place she calls a town. Ashburn hardly resembles one. It feels more like a rough outpost, lacking proper roads or structured buildings. Weeks pass, and Arthur learns more about his family. Alice, despite her gentle nature, firmly controls the household. Reynold is dependable and charismatic, though prone to childish behavior. Though grateful for their care, Arthur finds his new existence deeply distressing. His body is a prison. He cannot control his limbs or even basic bodily functions, and humiliation is constant. Only the mental discipline he developed as a king keeps him sane, along with a faint hope that this might somehow be a dream. It is not. This world feels too real. The culture appears primitive. People openly carry weapons through town, and merchants sell suspicious vials of liquid as medicine. One shopkeeper eagerly promotes an elixir, promising increased endurance. When Alice senses Arthur's fatigue, she immediately decides to return home, placing his comfort above all else. Arthur observes everything carefully. Knowledge is power, and he refuses to remain ignorant. At home, Reynold greets Arthur with boundless energy, lifting and tossing him playfully into the air. What Reynold sees as harmless fun terrifies Arthur, whose fragile body feels helpless. Alice quickly scolds Reynold, warning him of the danger. Arthur understands her concern. His body is painfully weak. One day, Reynold swings Arthur too enthusiastically and accidentally bumps him against a drawer. Pain shoots through Arthur's leg, and he begins to cry instinctively. Alice places her hand over the injury. A warm, glowing light surrounds the wound, accompanied by a faint hum. The pain vanishes, and the injury disappears completely. In that moment, Arthur realizes this world is far more extraordinary than he first believed. Weeks pass, and Arthur's weak body gradually becomes more responsive. One day, he manages to crawl. To his parents, it is a small milestone, but to Arthur, it feels like a victory greater than any he achieved in his past life. He once commanded armies, led warriors, and mastered the sword. Yet this simple act of movement brings him a sense of accomplishment unlike anything before. Alice, ever protective, immediately warns Reynold to keep a close eye on him and make sure he does not bump into anything dangerous. Reynold takes the task seriously, standing guard while Alice ensures Arthur stays away from unstable shelves. Despite their efforts, Arthur bumps his head lightly against a nearby mirror. The impact is minor, but as he steadies himself, he catches sight of his reflection. His parents watch from behind, their expressions softening with affection as they find it heartwarming that their son is fascinated by his own image. Arthur studies his reflection with a different mindset. He is still not used to his new name. Arthur feels too soft for someone who was once a king, yet he has to admit that the baby staring back at him is undeniably adorable, with bright eyes and a round face. He muses that when he grows up, his looks will not go unnoticed. Alice kisses his cheek and whispers her usual goodnight, believing her son will soon fall asleep. Arthur pretends to sleep, remaining still until he hears Alice's footsteps fade away. This is the moment he has been waiting for. He knows she will return in about an hour, giving him limited time to act. For weeks, he has struggled to master crawling, refusing to give up despite countless clumsy attempts. That persistence leads him to an important discovery: the family library. He first sneaks into it while Alice is distracted with chores, and it soon becomes his secret place of learning. Through the books, Arthur learns about the continent of Decathan and its three major kingdoms: the elf kingdom of Elenoir, hidden within vast forests; the underground dwarven kingdom of Darv; and Sapine, the human kingdom and the most populated region. The political system resembles that of his past world, with one major difference: rulership here is inherited rather than earned. He also realizes how underdeveloped this world's technology is, until he uncovers the reason: magic. Arthur reads obsessively about mana, the world's equivalent of the life force known as Ki in his previous life. Unlike Ki, mana exists everywhere and is largely influenced by genetics. Those who can use it become either augmenters, who enhance their bodies, or conjurers, who manipulate mana externally. Alice is revealed to be a rare deviant mage, an emitter capable of healing others. Arthur recalls seeing her heal his injury instantly. One passage explains that a mage's first awakening usually happens in the teenage years, when the mana core forms. The description closely resembles the Ki center Arthur once trained. Believing the concepts are similar, he attempts to awaken early by focusing inward. He feels something stir and pushes further, sensing success within reach. Suddenly, his concentration is broken when Alice lifts him into her arms. She has been searching for him and looks relieved, then amused, misinterpreting his posture entirely. Arthur realizes, too late, that while training, he has soiled himself. His pursuit of power ends not in triumph, but embarrassment. Warm sunlight filters through the library window, bathing the wooden shelves in gold. Alice sits at a sturdy desk, dipping her pen into ink and writing with calm, elegant strokes. It has been a little over 2 years since Arthur was born, yet every day still feels like a discovery to her. She has reached one unshakable conclusion: Arthur is the most adorable baby in the world. His auburn hair is soft and slightly messy, but it is his deep blue eyes that hold her attention. There is a sharpness in them, an intelligence far beyond what a toddler should possess, as though he understands more of the world than he should. Alice knows that such curiosity rarely comes without consequences. A child so observant is bound to find trouble, and she feels a responsibility to guide him properly. That means being strict when needed, something she knows she cannot rely on Reynold to do. Reynold is loving and fiercely protective, but far too reckless. His parenting style has already caused her concern more than once. She remembers catching him trying to teach Arthur how to fight when the boy could barely crawl. The sight had been absurd, and she had scolded him immediately. Still, she understands why it happened. With Reynold as his father, Arthur's future seems inevitably tied to combat and adventure, and that realization worries her. Arthur already shows signs of fascination with the world beyond their home. He loves visiting the merchant strip in central Ashburn, his eyes lighting up as he watches people pass, studies goods on display, and absorbs the lively atmosphere. Alice tells herself that her frequent trips downtown are practical, fresh food is needed, and exposure to the town has educational value. Yet, she knows the truth. She enjoys seeing Arthur's excitement, even if she never admits it aloud. Despite his energy during these outings, Arthur is unlike other children his age. He never falls ill, which reassures her, but other aspects of his behavior are unsettling. At times, she finds him sitting completely still with his eyes closed, his small body unmoving. At first, she worries over mundane possibilities, but soon realizes that is not the case. There is intention in his stillness, something deliberate and controlled. Babies are meant to be restless and playful, yet Arthur seems to focus all his effort on sneaking into the study. Whenever Alice catches him there, he simply sits in place, looking as though he is meditating. The behavior is strange, unlike anything she has encountered before. She sighs and glances toward the corner of the room where she has intercepted him so many times. She has considered countless ways to stop his escapes, but none have worked so far. At times, she even entertains the idea of moving his crib into the study just to avoid the constant struggle. 2 years have passed since Arthur first made his determined journey into that room. In that time, he has learned much, yet every day continues to reveal something new and unsettlingly fascinating about him. Arthur watches Reynold train, his sharp eyes tracking every movement. For several minutes, his father chants softly, face locked in deep concentration as his hands hover over a small cluster of stones on the ground. Arthur waits, curious, expecting something impressive. Then, the stones begin to tremble. Slowly, they lift into the air, floating under Reynolds' control. Arthur studies the display, unimpressed. It is only a few stones. After all that focus, all that effort, this is the result. Standing atop a table and peering outside, he watches his father finish and turn to give him a proud thumbs up. Arthur's reaction is immediate and silent. That's it. Just 3 minutes of absolute concentration to move something he could throw by hand with less effort. Alice steps beside him, lightly tapping his head, and the three of them watch Reynolds together as he continues training. When Arthur turns to climb down from the table, his confidence falters. The height feels greater than expected. A brief flicker of fear passes through him, but he steadies himself and climbs down carefully, forcing himself past the hesitation. Alice notices at once. His movements have slowed, his eyes half-lidded, and she recognizes the signs. It is time for a nap. She lifts him gently into her arms, cradling him while speaking in a calm, soothing voice. Arthur has no intention of sleeping. His body may be tired, but his mind is alert and restless. His thoughts drift immediately to the study and the books waiting there. With a sudden burst of energy, he pushes against Alice's hold, his bright eyes pleading for more time. Then, something unexpected happens. A pulse of raw energy surges outward from him. An invisible force strikes Alice, knocking her slightly off balance. She freezes, stunned, unsure of what just occurred. Alice sets him down and exhales, her resolve softening. Faced with his determination, she allows him some time in the study, convincing herself that this is not indulgence. Boys his age need play, and the room has already been baby-proofed. Arthur accepts the outcome as a clear victory. This is not childish stubbornness to him, but strategy. A warrior must use every advantage available. He returns to the study and immediately immerses himself in reading, his small hands carefully turning each page as he absorbs every scrap of knowledge. Alice remains nearby, watching him with a gentle gaze and taking comfort in his eagerness to learn. A sudden crash echoes from outside. Alice flinches, tension flooding her body as a heavy feeling settles in her chest. Reynolds had been training, and she assumes he has caused another accident. With a quiet reassurance to Arthur, she steps outside to investigate. The moment she leaves, Arthur shifts his focus. He closes his eyes, steadies his breathing, and enters meditation. This has become routine. For the past 2 years, beyond gathering knowledge, he has worked toward a single goal, forming his mana core. Tiny fragments of mana are scattered throughout his body, and day after day he guides them toward his solar plexus, gathering them piece by piece. The process is slow, exhausting, and demands relentless discipline. It is no wonder this normally takes until adolescence. The fragments resist, moving sluggishly, but Arthur is far ahead of the natural pace. Only one final piece remains. At that exact moment, a deafening explosion shatters the silence. The blast tears through the house, ripping walls apart and hurling debris in every direction. Alice is thrown backward, but Reynolds appears instantly, wrapping her in his arms and raising a temporary mana shield to protect her. Terror grips her mind, and one thought drowns out all others. Arthur? Reynolds does not hesitate. He charges forward, mana coating his body as wood and stone fly past him. The remains of their home collapse around him as he pushes ahead, not slowing for even a second as he rushes toward the source of the explosion. As the dust finally settles, Reynolds sees the source of the destruction. Arthur stands at the center of a massive crater, surrounded by the ruined remains of their home and the devastated backyard. What shocks Reynolds most is not the scale of the damage, but Arthur himself. The boy, barely 3 years old, is enveloped by a faint, flickering barrier of mana. Residual energy pulses outward from him, evidence of a powerful breakthrough. The explosion that reshaped the land was caused by Arthur's awakening. Arthur steps forward, his small feet steady, his expression unreadable at first. Then exhilaration surges through him. His senses sharpen dramatically. The air feels lighter, sounds clearer, and the world more vivid. He understands immediately. This is the sensation of having a mana core. His body overflows with energy, and he briefly revels in it before noticing the destruction around him. Confusion sets in as he takes in the shattered house and broken trees. He wonders if they have been attacked, then realizes the truth. This devastation is his doing. Over the past year, Arthur's life has been filled with more than reading and writing under Alice's guidance. Alongside his studies, he is trained in mana manipulation and basic augmentation. Since his body is too young for true combat, his training has focused on conditioning, running, body exercises, and relentless repetition. Reynolds supervises, often amused by the sight of a 3-year-old struggling through push-ups, though Arthur always notices his father holding back laughter. Eventually, Reynolds decides Arthur is ready for the next step. For his 3rd birthday, Arthur receives a wooden sword, marking the true beginning of combat training. One afternoon, Arthur sits quietly in the study, absorbed in a book, when Reynolds bursts in energetically and calls him outside for training. Arthur sets his book aside without complaint, understanding that training is as important as knowledge. In the backyard, Reynolds explains the fundamentals. Mana is not just power, it must flow naturally, synchronized with breathing, like an organ working in harmony with the body. Arthur listens without question, even though the concepts would be far beyond most children his age. Training begins immediately. Arthur attacks with his wooden sword while Reynolds defends himself using nothing more than a twig, effortlessly deflecting every strike. Arthur presses on, frustration building as each attack fails. Reynolds encourages him, refusing to let him stop. Arthur knows time is limited. He wants to return to studying before dinner. Determined, Arthur focuses completely. He regulates his breathing, gathers his strength, and swings with full intent. The twig in Reynolds' hand shatters on impact. Reynolds freezes, stunned by the force behind the blow. Arthur lowers his sword, breathing heavily, satisfied. He calmly asks to return to his studies. After a moment of hesitation, Reynolds nods, watching Arthur walk away with a mix of shock and pride. In this world, strength is measured by mana core color. A core begins black and grows purer through stages: red, orange, yellow, silver, and finally white, each divided into dark, solid, and light phases. Arthur reflects on this knowledge until Alice calls him for dinner. As the family gathers to eat, Arthur feels restless, his thoughts still on learning. Reynolds speaks up, suggesting that it may be time for Arthur to have a proper mentor. Alice immediately objects. Arthur is not even 4 years old, she insists, reminding Reynolds that he once claimed he could train their son himself as long as Arthur became an augmenter. Reynolds admits he never expected Arthur to be so naturally gifted at mana manipulation. Awakening a mana core at the age of 3 is unheard of. Alice's concern runs deeper than training. Having a mentor would mean Arthur leaving home far too young, something she cannot bear. Reynolds sees the situation differently. He has watched Arthur meditate and recognizes that mana comes to him as naturally as breathing. No matter how hard he tries, Reynolds knows he is holding his son back. Arthur's talent exceeds anything he can teach. The discussion turns into a heated debate, with Alice determined to keep her son close and Reynolds struggling to accept that Arthur needs more than they can offer. Eventually, both run out of arguments. The room grows quiet as they turn to Arthur. Reynolds asks Arthur directly whether he wants to go to a large city and meet a real teacher. Arthur is stunned. Being allowed to decide something so important feels overwhelming, especially at his age. After thinking carefully, he answers honestly, asking whether his mother and father could come with him to meet the teacher together. Alice and Reynolds exchange glances before breaking into laughter, realizing they never considered that option. Alice admits she would feel much better being there herself. Reynolds, suddenly excited, declares that they will all go to Cyrus City, and the decision is made almost instantly. In the days that follow, Arthur keeps to his usual routine while studying even more diligently, preparing himself for what lies ahead. On the night before departure, Alice gently takes a book from his hands and tells him to sleep, explaining they will leave early. She mentions they will travel with old friends from the Twin Horns party who are also heading to Cyrus. Arthur is allowed to bring a few books for the journey and goes to bed knowing the trip will begin sooner than expected. Arthur is already familiar with the Twin Horns, who helped rebuild their home. The group consists of 2 conjurers and 3 augmenters, strong enough to handle dangers along the road. For Arthur, this journey marks his first step beyond the quiet town he has always known. He carefully packs his belongings, including his wooden sword and 2 important books. By mid-morning, the family heads to the Ashbur Inn, where the Twin Horns are gathered. Reynolds greets them enthusiastically and introduces Arthur. Arthur politely thanks them for traveling together. Adam Crench, a spear-wielding augmenter, laughs loudly at Arthur's manners. Angela Rose, a wind conjurer, pulls Arthur into a suffocating hug before he is rescued by the massive earth conjurer, Durden Walker. Arthur then notices Jasmine Flamesworth, the swift dual-blade augmenter, and meets Helen Shard, an augmenter skilled in magic archery. Once introductions end, supplies are loaded into carriages pulled by giant lizards called skitters. As they set off, Arthur peers out the window, his heart light as the journey truly begins. During their journey, the group encounters a pack of wild wolves along the road. The Twin Horns party reacts immediately, moving with practiced coordination. The threat is neutralized quickly and cleanly, allowing the caravan to continue without delay. By nightfall, they choose a campsite near a cluster of large boulders that shield them from the cold wind. Fallen branches are gathered, and a campfire is soon burning brightly, casting flickering shadows across the ground. While the others prepare camp, Helen approaches Arthur and gently asks how he is holding up. She notices his fatigue, and Arthur admits that he is a bit tired. Helen reassures him, reminding him that this is his first long journey. With a playful tone, she mentions that Reynold has spent most of the trip boasting about Arthur, calling him a genius mage. She asks if it is true that Arthur awakened his mana core a year ago. Unsure how to respond, Arthur simply nods. Nearby, Adam stretches and casually suggests sparring before sleeping. He jokes that since Reynold has been training Arthur, he might as well try sparring with the boy himself. Arthur feels irritation but remains silent. Reynold allows it, warning Adam to be careful, explaining that Arthur has only recently moved beyond basic strength and mana control and has just begun light sparring. Adam lifts Arthur effortlessly and sets him down, clearly eager to test him. Arthur retrieves his wooden sword and steadies his stance. Adam reminds him to reinforce his weapon with mana. Watching closely, Reynold observes calmly, understanding Adam's intent to assert dominance, while Alice watches anxiously from the side. Arthur focuses entirely on Adam. Memories of his past life surface, battles, duels, and survival. Adam gathers mana into his legs, and Arthur charges forward. Preparing a horizontal strike, Adam shifts to block, but Arthur changes direction at the last moment, using a movement technique from his previous life. His smaller body limits the maneuver, but Adam has already committed to the wrong defense, leaving an opening. Arthur adjusts and strikes toward Adam's exposed side. Adam reacts with remarkable speed, pivoting to counter. Arthur crouches to avoid a counterattack and follows with a spinning swipe aimed at Adam's ankle. The blow lands, forcing Adam into a split to recover, followed by a powerful low kick. Arthur jumps to avoid it, but Adam's wooden weapon flashes toward him. With no time to block properly, Arthur jams the pommel of his sword into Adam's strike, stopping it mid-swing. The force sends Arthur flying backward, skipping across the ground. He avoids serious injury only because he reinforced his body with mana. Arthur slowly sits up as 7 stunned faces stare at him. Alice rushes over, immediately casting a healing spell. Durden marches up and smacks Adam on the head for going too far. Adam, shaken, calls Arthur a monster and wonders what kind of training produced him. Reynold laughs, admitting he taught Arthur nothing like that. When Alice finishes healing him, she asks if this is what he has been studying. Arthur nods, explaining he learned by watching and reading. Adam, impressed, asks Arthur to teach him the technique. Arthur explains it calmly. Helen attempts to imitate it, fails twice, and injures herself lightly. Several days pass as the group continues its journey towards Xyrus City. During the trip, Arthur's birthday comes and goes quietly. Each adult offers him a brief hug or a pat on the back along with simple congratulations. Jasmine surprises him the most. Without much expression, she hands him a short knife as a birthday gift. The gesture is unexpected, but Arthur appreciates it. The group eventually reaches the base of the Grand Mountains. The towering peaks rise high into the sky, fully deserving their name. The climb ahead looks difficult, but everyone is prepared. Over the past few days, Arthur's training with Reynold, Adam, and Helen has continued steadily, and all of them have made noticeable progress. What surprises Arthur most is Jasmine. Unlike the others, she adapts quickly, mastering several of the movement techniques Arthur shared. Her ability to grasp precise footwork and timing, especially techniques requiring careful control, impresses him. Arthur notices that Alice looks worn down. He asks if she is alright, and she reassures him that she is only a little tired. Though relieved by her answer, Arthur watches her closely for a moment before returning to his book. He spends most of his free time reading about mana manipulation, trying to understand the finer differences between mana and ki. He absorbs each page quickly, gaining deeper insight with every chapter. From the corner of his eye, he notices Jasmine quietly watching him, clearly trying to learn more. Arthur acknowledges her curiosity briefly, then refocuses on his reading. Without warning, a deep rumble shakes the ground. The carriages jolt violently as the earth trembles beneath them. Inside, Alice reacts instantly, her voice tense as she tries to understand what is happening. Before anyone can answer, Helen's sharp shout rings out from outside, warning that bandits are approaching fast. Heavy footsteps thunder from behind. Angela reacts immediately. She begins chanting, and the air shifts in response. A powerful gust of wind forms around the carriage, wrapping tightly around Angela, Alice, and Arthur. Arrows fly toward them, but the wind deflects each one, diverting them harmlessly away. The swirling air condenses into a dense, spherical barrier. Angela grips her wand firmly, maintaining the shield with full concentration. Alice pulls Arthur close, holding him tightly as chaos erupts outside. The barrier holds strong, preventing any arrows from breaking through. Reynold, Jasmine, Durden, and Adam remain standing, showing no visible injuries. Helen, however, is hurt. An arrow is embedded in her right calf, and her face is pale with pain. As the attack continues, the tarp covering the carriage roof is torn apart, giving Arthur a clear view of the battlefield. They are completely surrounded. At least 30 bandits close in from all sides, blocking both the front and rear paths. Armed with swords, spears, and other weapons, they press forward. Archers stand on the mountainside to the right with bows drawn, while to the left, a steep cliff drops into swirling fog below. A bandit leader steps forward, grinning arrogantly as he praises his men for an easy capture. He gives his orders coldly that the women and the child are to be left alive. Damaged goods, he adds cruelly, would not sell well. The phrase damaged goods echoes in Arthur's mind. It reminds him that cruelty exists in every world, no matter how peaceful life may seem for a time. Rage flickers in his eyes, but Alice notices the change immediately. Fearing that her son is shaken by what he has heard, she pulls Arthur tightly into her arms, holding him close and silently assuring him that he is safe. The tension snaps when a bandit releases an arrow aimed at Durden. Without hesitation, Durden begins chanting, and the earth responds. The ground rumbles as a thick wall of stone rises in a curved arc, shielding him and the others. Arrows slam into the barrier and shatter, but more continue to rain down, some redirected toward the carriages. At the same time, Angela completes her spell. She thrusts her hand forward, unleashing razor-sharp wind blades that tear through the air toward both the front and rear paths. The attacks cut down advancing bandits and carve out space around the group. Despite the arrow lodged in her leg, Helen steadies herself, draws her bow, and fires. Her shot strikes true, dropping one of the attackers. Reynold immediately charges forward. His gauntlets gleam as he shields himself from incoming arrows and launches into the fray. He slams one bandit into the ground, and panic spreads among the others. As they attempt to retreat, Reynold dashes after them, striking down two in rapid succession. He grabs a third by the neck and lifts him effortlessly. Another bandit rushes in from behind with a raised sword. But, before the blow can fall, an arrow pierces the attacker's chest. Reynold glances back to see Helen covering him perfectly despite her injury. More bandits close in near the carriage. Jasmine and Adam move instantly to intercept. Jasmine becomes a blur, her blade severing limbs and cutting down enemies with ruthless precision. Adam sweeps his spear through multiple attackers, cutting them down without hesitation. When another bandit lunges at him with a machete, Adam dodges and drives his spear through the man repeatedly before ending him with a brutal upward strike. Jasmine continues her relentless assault, cutting through more attackers with fluid movements. Then, a new threat emerges, an augmenter wielding a long chain whip. He keeps his distance, lashing unpredictably and taunting her as he tries to entangle her. Arthur watches closely and realizes Jasmine is at a disadvantage due to the weapon's range. He wonders if he can help, but before he can act, a violent crash draws his attention. Reynold is thrown hard against the shattered remains of the earth wall. His body slumps as blood drips from his lips. Alice cries out in horror. Arthur's focus snaps to the towering enemy responsible, who grins at Reynold's broken form. Arthur shouts for Alice to heal him, but her hands tremble. She is frozen with fear, unable to act. Adam speaks up, forcing calm into his voice despite his injuries. He tells Arthur that Reynold's wounds are not immediately fatal. He explains that once Alice uses her healing magic, the bandits will target her next. Adam cannot protect both her and Arthur while fighting the enemy leader. He tells Arthur to take his mother and retreat down the trail without stopping. Arthur refuses, shaking his head. He does not want to run after proving he can fight. Adam gently taps Arthur's head and speaks firmly. He says he trusts Arthur, trusts him enough to protect his mother and the child she is carrying. Everything falls into place at once. He understands why Alice has been so fearful, why she has kept him close at every moment, and why Durden and Angela focused entirely on defense instead of attacking. Alice is pregnant. Reynold glances at Arthur with quiet regret, admitting he planned to tell him once they reached Cyrus. There is no time now. Arthur swallows hard, his hesitation replaced by resolve. He vows to protect his mother and the life she carries. Reynold smiles faintly at his determination. Alice completes her chant, and a brilliant golden white light surrounds her and Reynold. Healing energy flows through them, closing some of Reynold's wounds. Reynold quickly warns Arthur that the battle is not over. 4 mages remain among the bandits. The bandit leader, having noticed Alice's healing spell, roars orders to stop her and prevent her escape. Arthur reacts instantly. He grabs Alice's arm, reinforcing his body with mana, and pulls her down the trail they came from. Every muscle in his small body tightens as he focuses solely on shielding her. They rush past Adam, who is locked in combat with a dual-wielding opponent. Adam shouts for Arthur to keep moving, holding his ground and preventing the enemy from reaching them. As Arthur leads Alice downhill, a sharp whistle cuts through the air. His instincts take over. He leaps, raising his wooden sword and reinforcing both it and his body with mana. An arrow slams into the blade, splintering the wood with a loud crack and knocking Arthur backward. He twists midair, regains his balance, and tosses aside the broken sword. Before another arrow can follow, Helen fires from behind, her shot striking the archer cleanly and dropping him. She continues firing to support Reynold at the front. Arthur scans the battlefield, uneasy. Adam is fighting one mage, Jasmine another, while Reynold and Helen handle a third. One mage is missing. At that moment, the bandit leader shouts new orders, calling for someone named Damien to abandon the plan and kill them all. Arthur looks up and spots the fourth mage concealed on the mountainside among the archers. The conjurer finishes chanting, revealing a massive, growing sphere of pressurized water that launches toward Arthur and Alice. Arthur's thoughts race. Alice cannot escape in time. Without hesitation, he gathers every remaining ounce of mana and tackles her, shoving her hard down the slope and out of danger. Time seems to slow as he sees her eyes wide with panic while she tumbles safely away. Arthur immediately draws the short knife Jasmine gave him. He pours all his mana into it and hurls it like a boomerang at the mage, striking his thigh and breaking his concentration. The water spell destabilizes as the mage screams in pain. A string tied to the knife goes taut in Arthur's grip. Using both the mage's momentum and his own pull, Arthur drags him toward the cliff. The conjurer scrambles but loses his footing and plunges into the depths below. Arthur's strength fades. He sees Durden desperately chanting, trying to reach him with earth magic, but Arthur knows it is too late. The blast has thrown him too far. His vision darkens, though he can still make out the battle turning in their favor as the bandits are overwhelmed. While his consciousness slips away, a single thought lingers in his mind. He had always wanted to be an older brother,